Bull market stealth correction, oil back around 60, commodity prices are on the rise. These are just a few of the things on our next guest's mind. Here with us to talk markets and more, William Buechler, president of Barclay Partners Asset Management. William, good to see you.
Good morning, Mark.
Now, let's talk about oil, because you make a point that a lot of other people aren't making, that the underlying global supply-demand issue remains with us, whatever the short term is.
Well, that's exactly right. I think people are focusing on the short-term oversupply, but the real picture is going to be demand going forward, with China and India moving out of the agrarian society into the industrial society. Their demand for energy is not going backwards, and I think we want to look forward to the fact that demand is going to continue. The EIA, with their forecasts, have called really for a global recession. If we don't get that, I think prices are headed higher.
But we've been in 50-plus oil for quite a while now. Is there not sufficient exploration and finding going on to bring supply more into balance?
Well, we've got that, and the alternative energy is a possibility as well. But again, I don't think we factored in that if we do not have a recession this year, and we do have the continuation of the synchronized growth that we've had in the last 3 years, and it's really the first time since World War II where we've had this kind of synchronized global growth. If we continue to have that and we get demand closer to 2.5 versus the EIA estimate of 1.7, I think we're going to go to new highs this year in the oil market.
What about ethanol? We heard yesterday that the U.S. government's considering a strategic ethanol reserve of undetermined size and location, but does that make you more bullish on ethanol? Does that move the needle? You know,
it does. I think if people went back and spent some time in the heartland, went to Iowa and looked around, they really have changed their society back there to be ethanol and alternative fuel based. And I think that, we'd all agree that we'd like to be energy independent. And ethanol might not be the best solution, but it's the best one that we might have that we can implement now. And I'm glad to see that we're trying to move forward that way as a country.
But your best investment ideas this year are not only overseas, but they're not in the emerging markets that have done so well. They're in two countries we rarely talk about on this show, Mark: Australia and New Zealand.
You know, this is, we might call it the land that time forgot, or the Wall Street forgot anyway. But New Zealand in particular, they still have a situation where the dividends that companies pay, they reward shareholders down there with dividends. So a good portfolio that's in New Zealand might pay about a 7.5–8% dividend yield, which is really unheard of here in the U.S.
Average here is 2. So
exactly right. And as a big believer in dividends, not only as a good way to start the return, but also as an indication, I think management has to manage for the long term when they have this dividend flow that they're responsible for. And we all know here in the U.S., management tends to manage for the short term, the stock price and that sort of thing. So I think it really forces management to make the right long-term decisions. But that whole marketplace is undervalued in terms of stocks, real estate as well. And I think as it starts to gather people's attention, it's going to be the hot place to be over the next 3 to 5 years.
All right. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate you sharing your
Nice
thoughts.
to see you.
William Buechler.